joining me today, giving me just a little slice of your day. You know that I appreciate you. I want to talk about some of the quarterback situations around the SEC today. So we'll get into that. The Hawks played the Celtics, and the Celtics played possibly the worst first quarter in the history of the NBA. It might be up there with some of the worst. So we'll talk about that too. That game was unwatchable, man. Oh my god! Like, I stopped watching the game in the middle of the third quarter. It was over. Like, there's games that are lopsided, but they're not bad per se. Then you've got games that are just, they're just not watchable. And look, the Celtics were a team that you look at them and you look at the Hawks and you're going like, this could be a trap situation for the Hawks. Like a seriously good Celtics team in terms of how they're coached. Brad Stevens is an incredible coach. And I thought they would have they were going to give the Hawks a better fight than what's been happening here. Certainly in game one, that was the case, but game two, so I understand there's some injuries in Boston, but that is bad. That is just bad basketball. So we'll talk about all of that stuff. But first, I'd like to talk about the platforms. Where can you reach us? Where can we reach you? I always recommend Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Those are the best places to go if you want to join the conversation that is Hot News Talk Radio. This is not a one-way avenue. Okay, search Hot News Talk Radio. We're the first thing that comes up. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd love to listen to our programming, okay, YouTube, we stream all of our local shows every single day. All right, all of the local shows. You can catch those on YouTube, not just the ones that we stream live, but you can go back and filter through some of those classic episodes. Never like to call them old. So it's so mean to do that. Also, you can go to hotnewstalkradio.com. We stream 24/7, 365, and of course in the TuneIn Radio app, which is free, regardless of your mobile device. Unless you've got like a BlackBerry or something. I don't know what the BlackBerry store situation looks like. But if you've got an Android phone, if you've got an Apple phone, search your app store for the TuneIn Radio app. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We are on there. Give us a favorite and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So I was watching basketball yesterday. I was watching the Hawks and the Celtics. Of all the series in the first round, of all the series, if I had to tell you, watch one of these series, this series might actually be interesting, I would have told you to watch the Hawks and the Celtics. I would have been wrong, too, because that first game got out of hand. The Hawks had a huge lead, and then the Celtics came back. That was good. It was close. But game two, the Celtics came out, and they were cold, man. Ice cold. 3 of 23 shooting in the first quarter. That is the worst first quarter of the modern era of basketball, which starts in 1954. That's the worst first quarter of playoff basketball since 1954. 3 of 23 as a team, not like if an individual player is just off one night and they're 3 of 23. Don't get me wrong, that's terrible. But some nights you're just off. The whole team, they scored 7 points in that quarter. They almost had 9, except Jared Sullinger blew an open layup at the end of the quarter. 3 of 23. So, yeah, no surprise, Atlanta got out to a gigantic lead. Kyle Korver was on fire. They played their game. The game was dreadful, though. They were up 15 points at the half, which was surprising to me because when a team starts a game shooting 3 of 23, you expect the number, the point differential there to be much larger than 15 points. It was only 15 at the half. Atlanta continued to play well. Boston continued to not play very well. It just wasn't a fun game to watch. Atlanta's got more talent, and it's very obvious. It's very obvious. If you gave that Boston roster to another coach, that team would be dreadful. The Brad Stevens is coaching this team to where they are. Okay? That he's got them playing at a higher level than they should be playing at. And I wonder how much more of this I can take. Like, I really just hope that the Hawks just sweep them so we don't have to see any more of this. This is bad to watch. Okay? Like, this Celtics team without Brad Stevens, they're like the 76ers. Like, it's that bad. They are terrible. But I think more importantly, this brings up the issue that I love to fight all the time, which is that the NBA should bring back that first round best of 5 series. They really should consider doing that because the playoffs are long enough as it is. Like I feel like I'm watching playoff basketball, NBA playoff basketball, like half my life. We're not going to be done with this thing until June. We're in April. We're not going to be done with the NBA playoffs until June, which I just have a hard time believing every time. And again, if it were all high quality games, but we're not getting that. And first round 1-8 upsets, they don't happen. So I don't want to see the Warriors play the Rockets, that bunch of sad sacks for 7 games, for a best of 7 games. If this were a best of 5, you'd have one less game to win. It'd be just much less dreadful all the way around. You might have a chance of an upset maybe happening. It's great. They should bring back the best of 5. Seriously, I'm done with this. I cannot watch any more bad basketball, and a lot of these matchups are just terrible. And some of it is injuries. The Spurs and the Grizzlies played last night. The Spurs beat the Grizzlies to death. The injuries, mostly. I mean, the Spurs are just better than the Grizzlies all around, but that's a much different game if they've got Marc Gasol and they've got Mike Conley. And they don't have those guys. They've got, the walking remains of Tony Allen. It's just not a great series. And I don't want to see 7 games of it. Okay, I don't want to see 7 games of Rockets Warriors. I know I don't want to see a best of 7 of the rest of Celtics Hawks. Like, I wish that there was just one more game that they had to win. Please goodness, let it be over. But it's over. We're basically watching a formality. It's just horrible basketball. We thought Toronto was better than they were, so that's interesting and going differently than you would have thought. But overall, NBA playoff basketball draws on too long, and I think this series is a prime example of why they should go back to that 5-7-7 format, where you've got the best of 5 in the first round, and then go back to your 7s for the rest of it. Like, I understand a best of 7 games, I just don't understand it. I would even go for the best of 3 again if we could do this, because some of these series are just so mismatched. It's barely watchable. It barely is watchable. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I want to go around the SEC quarterback situation, but before we talk about that, another trade has gone down in the NFL. It's shaken things up a little bit. Doesn't really affect the Titans at all. Doesn't affect the Falcons at all. But it's a pretty big game changer so far as this draft goes, because I don't know if I can remember another NFL draft where I've seen this much action before the draft, where these trades are happening, teams are moving up back and forth, and it's not happening on draft day. It's happening well before the draft. And so the Rams obviously made the trade with the Titans. The Rams have the first overall pick, and the Browns back out of their pick. They switch with the Eagles. They jump back in the draft and allow the Eagles to jump up because the Eagles would like a quarterback. Looks like they like Carson Wentz a lot, so they're going to jump up and get him, especially because everybody knows, with a relative degree of certainty that the Rams like Jared Goff, and there's a lot about him to like. There's a lot about Wentz to like too. A little bit more doubt with him, I think, but there's a lot about him to like as well. And now with the Eagles jumping up and the Browns jumping back, that does change a few things. And it seems to be the trend in the NFL. Like, if you're not going to be able to get the guy you want at a very high draft pick, or you don't want to use that pick on somebody that high, then better to just swap the pick and get a haul of draft picks to try and change some things. This is probably the most competent thing that the Browns have done in a really long time. Possibly. It's incredibly well thought out and well maneuvered to the point where you're like, wait, the Browns? Yeah, the Browns. So the Eagles get the second overall pick and a fourth rounder from next year. Cleveland gets the 8th overall pick. That's swapping with the Eagles. They get the Eagles 8. Then they get a 3rd rounder this year, a 4th rounder this year, Philly's 1st rounder from next year, and their 2nd rounder from 2018, 2 years from now. So just a nice little bag of picks for the Browns. How about that? So they've got that going for them. But it's interesting because I don't think that either team lost in that trade. And with the Rams and the Titans, I don't think either team lost in that trade. But there is one big loser in these trades we're not talking about. And that is Mr. Laramie Tunsil, who was just a few weeks ago projected to be the number 1 overall pick. And through no fault of his own, nothing that he did at all, he's fallen off of that. Right? Like nobody's jumping up to take a left tackle. You could, but nobody's doing that. Not unless that guy is the best left tackle of all time, and you just know it. They're all jumping up for the quarterbacks in a draft that is relatively thin at talent in that position. So that's pretty crazy to me. That you've got this situation, Laramie Tunsil, who, he's not without red flags. He's not without doubt, but Laramie Tunsil hasn't done anything to warrant his falling back in the draft like this. Teams that don't want him are jumping up. That's it. That sucks. That really does. Like, the more I think about it, the more I just feel sorry for him. There's nothing that he could have done to keep that number 1 overall pick spot. And I'm really glad that this happens because I don't like mock drafts very much. And I like that this changes that whole situation up. You can't make a mock draft because you don't know who's going to jump up to where and fight for what position. And so now all the mock drafts, you've got to redo all of them and change things around. Right? And in that entire situation, you've got to basically take a guy that was a few weeks ago in every mock draft that you saw. Laramie Tunsil was the number 1 overall pick. He was going to Tennessee. I was talking on this show about how great it would be if somehow Tennessee could get Tunsil and somehow Kimdichie. He'd obviously have to fall to the 2nd round, but you're looking at an NFL draft that's just gone crazy. I don't think we're going to see any more trades that huge, but it's interesting because I think we could have seen this trade coming. Possibly. Once the Browns realized, because the Browns like Jared Goff too. Once the Browns realized they couldn't get Jared Goff at 2, because that's who the Rams jumped up to take, they had to get out of there. So should we be looking for more trades around the corner? Right? Because if you're not going to be able to get your guy at the spot that you're sitting at, you need to leave. And the Browns did that. The Titans, I don't know if the Titans, the Titans didn't need a quarterback, and they know that their spot, that number 1 overall spot's got a lot of value. And you can get a great tackle in this draft. Like, honestly, offensive line is where this draft is pretty high. You could get a nice tackle in this draft. You don't have to get Tunsil at 1. There's a lot of guys that are pretty nice in this draft in the 1st round. So Tennessee wasn't too worried about that. And so the mock drafts have to change. The Eagles look like they're fine with whoever they get, if it's Goff or if it's Wentz or whatever. But it's crazy how these things have to switch around. because we got 2 blockbuster deals. Okay, Laramie Tunsil's still going to be a top 5 draft pick, by the way. But I just feel sorry for the guy because the amount of money that he could have made has dropped off exponentially. The number 1 overall pick is set to make a lot of money. I mean, that's just how that goes, especially now that we've got the pay scales. You make demonstratively more than everybody else in the first round if you're the number 1 overall pick. And Laramie Tunsil went from 1 to 3. Looks like the Chargers like him. The Chargers may take Tunsil. Okay. And that changes a lot of things too, because there was a word on the street that the Chargers really were hoping that Carson Wentz could just fall in their lap. If he did, they would just take him. And now they can't do that. They have to take Laramie Tunsil at 3, and I don't know if that's disappointing for them or not. I wouldn't have taken Carson Wentz if I were the Chargers this season, but if you've got an opportunity to take a guy who could be good 2 to 3 years down the road, and you've got Phillip Rivers who is getting up there in age, you might want to consider doing it, and that's not a position that's an option for them anymore. But there's no way that Laramie Tunsil makes it outside of the top 5 picks. Probably not going to make it past San Diego. I feel bad for the kid and how much money he could have made and how much money he's not making now through no fault of his own. Just the way that the game went. A bunch of trades happened above his head. He wasn't capable of interacting with any of that. From what I understand, he also had a pretty great pro day, and nobody cares. Down to 3 he goes. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. And that trade just happened overnight. Your value hasn't changed as a player. People still have you rated just as highly. They just want a quarterback more, which is where we are in the NFL. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. We talked yesterday about how Les Miles seemed, of all people, not as concerned about his job security as most folks seem to be. Possibly because now he knows that no matter what he does, like if he doesn't win and win big this season, he is gone. And in previous seasons, what we learned last season was you can't fire the guy. Right? Like unless you have to go through the proper channels and you have to start an entire offseason in advance to prepare to fire Les Miles. Because if you just try to fire him on the spot, you draw the wrath of fans. You draw the wrath of Les Miles' mysterious connections all over the place. And then you end up having to stand up on a stage where you wanted him to have his resignation speech, and you all have to stand there and apologize to him while looking smarmy doing so. Cannot fire Les Miles. He will not go anywhere. But I'm looking at the quarterback situations, and Les Miles is locked into Brandon Harris. Right? He is tied at the hip to Brandon Harris. That is the person who most controls his destiny, because this team is good enough at every other position to really be a force to be reckoned with out in the West. Right? Like Alabama's always going to be terrifying, but LSU should be right there. And for whatever reason, they're not. And it's more quarterback play than anything. Like Brandon Harris isn't bad, but he's average. He's average. And average sometimes and sometimes below average. And it doesn't work out well for them. Right? Like you look at the spring practice game, and again, you try not to read too much into that stuff because that doesn't tell you everything, but he was okay. So that in conjunction with what we saw from him last season where he was all right. He started off slow. He kind of got better. He regressed at some point in the season. He's okay. And this is where Les Miles is. His hip is stuck to an okay quarterback. He's got Leonard Fournette. You know, you've got offensive weapons. You've got an offensive line that's pretty solid. Defensive line that's good. Your defense is good. But, you know, the quarterback play in the SEC this season, I think we're stepping up, right? Like I think overall in the SEC, I'm not saying this is going to become quarterback conference, but it's stepping up, right? We're going to get past the days where SEC teams don't have memorable quarterbacks. We're moving in the right direction with this, and Brandon Harris might be the thing that holds back Les Miles and the LSU Tigers. Who knows? This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're going to talk more about quarterbacks in the SEC next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community, offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet-friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds has got on his sunglasses. He's buying so many glittering diamonds today, he's almost going blind looking at the haul. Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, come on in today. He'll give you top dollar on a sparkling field of diamonds, an ocean of value that he wants to convert into cash for you. Come on in today, sell your diamonds. You'll get the biggest wad of dollars anywhere for your gleaming diamond. Rick Diamonds Golden Diamonds. Rick wants to meet you in person today. Diamonds, Rick loves them. He'll take your diamonds and gold and you'll walk out with ready-made money in your pocket. Hundreds, 50s, 20s, and $10 bills. Cash, cash, cash at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds. Rick Davis, Brainerd Road near Eastgate Town Center. Cash, 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 and more cash.
A few more clouds will roll in from the west through the nighttime. Overnight lows into the upper 50s. For Thursday, becoming breezy. High temperatures into the upper 70s. Could see a late spotty shower, not much. Tomorrow night into Friday, though, scattered showers and a few thunder showers will roll in from the west. Highs Friday, lower 70s. Check out the new quesalupa from Taco Bell with delicious melted pepper jack cheese baked right into the shell. It has everyone talking. What are you waiting for? Now at your local Taco Bell. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The city of Chattanooga is rocked by a wave of violence following 10 shootings in just 4 days. The latest one happened just before midnight on Tuesday on East 3rd Street. The victim was in the backyard of his house when he heard gunshots. He decided to go back into his house. He realized he'd been shot in the hand. He's been taken to the local hospital for treatment. The suspect has been detained. Investigation is still ongoing. If you have any information about this shooting that happened on East 3rd Street, call the Chattanooga Police at 423-698-2525. The Humane Education Society in Chattanooga reported that its animal protection officers helped 61 cats and kittens, which were apparently living in deplorable conditions in a home on Maplewood Lane. This happened after neighbors complained about the sound and smell of these cats outside of the house. All of them have upper respiratory infections and are being treated by the Humane Educational Society. They're asking for the community's help to treat them. If you'd like to help, go to heschat.com. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
quarterback play, it's pretty hard to consistently want to rely on quarterback play, especially in college, because you're asking young guys to come out and grow up fast. You ask them to come out and to fill a role and to grow up very quickly and to be in 2 to 3 years the answer to an offense, which is why I think, the SEC dominates so much, and why the SEC dominates despite not having the history of like fantastic quarterbacks, right? You've got great quarterbacks coming out of the SEC. Peyton Manning, obviously, Eli, Cam Newton. They're great players. Okay, Matt Stafford. They exist. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm saying what you're asking to consistently do. Yet Alabama hasn't had one of those guys, and Alabama's the one that keeps winning the titles, right? Because what you're able to do when you're not winning with a quarterback, when you're winning with your defense and you're winning with your ability to run the ball, is you're being consistent. You are consistently winning in a way that is repeatable week in and week out. When running the football does not change drastically, okay? But the different looks that a team will give you to stop your quarterback, that can change a lot, okay? Which is why it's tough to find a great quarterback. And so there are some teams in the SEC, they have a problem right now. They have to fill the quarterback hole. You know, whether their quarterback was great and he just left, or whatever the case may be, there are some teams that have to fill the quarterback hole. Some people are covered. You know, I'm looking at some teams like Arkansas. Arkansas's got Austin Allen. He's the younger brother of their previous quarterback, Brandon Allen, and Brett Bielema likes him so much. Austin's the starter. Like, doesn't even have to fight for the job. Job is yours, buddy. Okay, and it's great because Arkansas runs the ball a lot anyway. Like, you don't have to be a world beater to win in Arkansas. Arkansas is going to have more trouble replacing those running backs, which again, they're going to have more trouble doing that, but they're not going to have a ton of trouble doing that because they do the running back thing well. Like, Arkansas and Alabama, to me, are two schools that they do the running back thing well. They just find guys who can run the ball. Maybe you've heard of them before. Maybe you haven't. But guys just run the ball great in those systems. I don't know why. Arkansas is able to have 2,000-yard rushers in a single season. That doesn't really happen. They do the running back thing well. So that's not a huge problem for them. And you don't have to go out there and be the world's greatest quarterback for Arkansas. So, I mean, they have to fill the quarterback hole. But again, that's not something that's going to be a lot of difficulty for them. They really, really like Austin Allen, who apparently showed out during the spring practice. Whereas a team like Auburn, you're gonna have a little bit more trouble. Okay, the quarterback situation is just a touch more complicated at Auburn because you've got 3 guys and not anybody. I've been reading the rumors and I've been reading the reports. Gus Malzahn is not saying anything. He's not leaning in any particular direction. And he's got Jeremy Johnson, Sean White, and John Franklin III to choose from between. Nobody knows who's going to start. Everybody thinks it could be Sean White or Jeremy Johnson, who's got experience, or John Franklin because he just looked good in practice. Nobody's actually sure where Gus Malzahn is going to go with his quarterback, and Gus doesn't feel like deciding right now. I feel like he's going to have to. You know, it's one thing if you've got a quarterback decision to make between 2 guys. You can let that go on a little bit. When you've got 3 guys to choose from between, like you're going to have to start expanding somebody's reps somewhere. I don't like this whole we're going to sit back and watch all 3 of these guys compete situation. I don't know that actually works out well for anybody. But I do know, you know, everyone was disappointed last year by Jeremy Johnson. Sean White showed he could ball a little bit, but we didn't get the consistency from him. And then John Franklin III transfers into Auburn. And I think physically, John Franklin does what what Auburn needs, which is that mobility, that ability to make plays with your feet instead of your arm. When stuff breaks down, extend the plays by moving around outside of the pocket. I don't believe in Jeremy Johnson's ability to do that, for one. And Sean White can a little, but John Franklin III is the guy that seems to have those physical capabilities to do that. Maybe they go his direction. But honestly, nobody knows, which means that Auburn might be in a little bit of trouble, right? Ole Miss doesn't have anything to worry about. Chad Kelly got hurt last season, but they should be fine this season. They should be really good, actually. Honestly, with their quarterback problem comes with who's he throwing to? You know, and Laquan Treadwell, that's going to be production that's impossible to replace. Maybe not impossible, but very difficult to replace. Laquan Treadwell is a guy that interests me too, as far as being an NFL prospect as well, because he's catching a lot of criticism for not being really fast, which is a nice ability to have in the NFL at wide receiver. But having a big body and a big frame and just being able to catch the ball, that's nice too. Okay? And for some reason, we see deep routes and just go, we want a guy to be able to do that, right? Like you see Julio Jones and you're like, I want a guy that does what Julio can do. Or Calvin Johnson, when he came out of Georgia Tech, like you could just throw the ball up into triple coverage and just know Calvin Johnson's catch radius is the size of a 2-car garage door. He'll just come up with the ball. That's not even a problem for him, right? But Laquan Treadwell did something that's amazing to me, which is despite the fact that he's not super fast, he's a great pass catcher, okay? He runs great routes as well. And I think that that's more important at the NFL level. That ability to run routes. Look at Larry Fitzgerald, who I think there's a lot of comparisons you can make between Laquan Treadwell and Larry Fitzgerald. If anything, it's that Larry Fitzgerald is not like your deep route guy. He can do it. But look at Larry Fitzgerald play, especially now that he's slowed down and he's older. He's not running deep routes. He's running routes very well. He's getting just enough separation to be open, and he's got amazing large hands. So he's going to catch everything that comes inside of his radius. Okay, Laquan Treadwell does that, and he can one-hand catches, just passes that may not even be particularly great. Look at the Laquan Treadwell videos on YouTube. Like, go up and look him up. Look up those highlights. He's not just catching stuff that's wide open. He's catching stuff in traffic, which a lot of wide receivers don't necessarily have that ability going directly into the NFL. That's something they've got to learn. Treadwell's already got that. That's going to be tough to replace down there in Mississippi. And speaking of Mississippi State, replacing Dak Prescott. Yeah, have fun with that one, right? Have fun with replacing Dak Prescott. He's only possibly the greatest Mississippi State Bulldog ever. He's very possibly the greatest Mississippi State player that's ever played, right? Like over 9,000 yards of career passing yards. He's possibly the greatest to ever do it. He played on a team last year that was dreadful outside of him, and he still looked really good. His touchdown to interception ratio, the lowest that it had ever been. Yeah, good luck replacing Dak Prescott. I think a lot of people would like to replace him with Elijah Staley, 6'6". And what Elijah Staley does, he reminds folks of Cam Newton. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying in terms of the mobility and that ability to move around, make defenders miss, make people look bad, and then having that strong arm. I'm on Team Elijah Staley. I like him a lot for Mississippi State's next quarterback position. Now, I don't know anybody in that organization. This is just a blind guess. And also like a strong hope that that's the guy, because I just like the way that he plays. I like the way that he looks. But I don't know how you replace Dak Prescott. Honestly, that level of production, it's hard. It's hard to figure out who's going to be able to do that week in and week out for your team. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Going around the SEC, talking about the SEC quarterbacking situations, some of which are good, some of which aren't. Alabama's got a couple guys battling it out, but again, that's not as important for Alabama. Tennessee's already locked up their situation with Josh Dobbs obviously coming back for his third season, and that makes them the favorite to win the East. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. And Jacob Eason showing up in Georgia. People like him for the job, but it's not a guarantee. Kirby Smart has not given that away to anybody. Interestingly enough, Texas A&M is gonna try and roll with the old Oklahoma quarterback, transferring senior Trevor Knight, which I think that's a very fantastic upgrade for them. The problem with A&M is that they can't keep a quarterback, so it's kind of cool that they've got Trevor Knight, but he's a senior, so unless he stays for his graduate degree, they're going to lose him too after the season. But they give themselves a puncher's chance out there in the West. If they have Trevor Knight, they've got a decent quarterback. Trevor Knight's pretty solid, big frame guy, strong arm dude. Doesn't make a ton of deep throws. Sometimes holds onto the ball too long. So there's a lot of things there with him, but I was worried there about that A&M situation because they had a bunch of quarterbacks. They recruit quarterbacks very well. The problem is once the quarterbacks show up to College Station, Texas, they don't want to stay. That's obviously a problem, but they've got their situation handled for at least this season, and they've got a lot of things to work out in that way. But losing after Manziel, losing Kyler Murray the way that they did, that he just up and left, said there wasn't enough discipline inside the program. It's craziness. Telling you, guys want that level of discipline, and they want that level of structure. And usually, college guys are not the guys to realize that this is what they want and this is what they need. So Kyler Murray shows up and realizes right away, there is none of this here. I can't stick around. I'm out. So we've patched the hole here with Trevor Knight, which if that can get you anywhere this season, try for it. But there's just a lot of desperate teams in the SEC West this season, which is going to make for some fantastic football. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. Don't forget to register for the 1-2-3 NASCAR contest, the Sprint Cup Series contest that we have here at Hot News Talk Radio. For your opportunity to win $124 in cash and $124 in Five Guys food prizes, simply register at any Five Guys. Okay, they make delicious burgers, and who doesn't want $124 worth of Five Guys food? Come on, people, get out there and register. This contest is not going to win itself. Simply guess the first, second, and third place winners of the upcoming Sprint Cup Series race this weekend for an opportunity to win $124 in cash and $124 in food prizes. So the SEC West, to me, is interesting. Our quarterback conversation is kind of rolling into a conversation about the SEC West and just how deeply fascinating it is, because it's like when you look at the NBA, right? The Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, and the West is just better. They just have better players, and you're not sure why. The same thing really can be said about the SEC West versus the SEC East. The SEC West is a murderer's row. Nobody's coming out of there completely clean. If Alabama had played in the East, do they even lose a game? I mean, because Ole Miss had everybody's number. Ole Miss didn't just beat Bama. Ole Miss caught LSU. I mean, Ole Miss caught everybody. Teams that you're distant behind, but all of the people that you ask a coach to beat on an annual basis, the reason why they pay Hugh Freeze so much money down there, sure, we weren't in contention really, and we didn't look good in the second half of the season, but you beat Alabama and you beat LSU. LSU also fell off in the second half of the season, but they shouldn't have lost to Ole Miss the way that they did. I don't think. But everybody in the SEC West, that is a terrifying division. Okay? And coming out of there unscathed, like, I'm surprised that some of these teams end up being like 10-win teams. Like, Ole Miss has gotten to the point where they jump up and they're a 10-win team. A&M wasn't a 10-win team, but they're competitive. Alabama, they do what they do. You know what I mean? It's terrifying. It's pretty terrifying. And one of those teams has to go to the SEC championship game and play an SEC East school that, relative to them, is not as tested. Okay, it's just not as tested. I mean, we can go ahead and pull it up, but I mean, even the weaker teams in the SEC West would be, I wouldn't say favorites, but they're very likely to contend in the SEC East, in my opinion. They're very capable of that level of contention if we go through the SEC standings from a season ago. But the SEC West continues to dominate in a way that hardly seems fair. Last season, you had the two 10-win teams in the SEC East in Georgia and Florida, and then Tennessee should have been a 10-win team at least, but, you know, stuff happened, including that one loss to Florida. But if you look at the SEC West, Bama's 14-1, Ole Miss is 10-3, LSU's 9-3, and really should have been 10-3, but they had their first game canceled, if you recall, because of weather. Mississippi State 9-4. You've just got more schools. The fall off in the SEC East is so ridiculous. You go Florida, Tennessee, Georgia last season. Next best school, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina. Vanderbilt's 4-8. Kentucky's 5-7. Missouri's 5-7. South Carolina's 3-9. Like, you really should be winning this division if you're Tennessee next season. It's weak. It's weak, and there's not that much parity in it. You look at the SEC West, and Alabama's probably going to win somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 14 games again. I think, just out of the way that they're built and the way that they're designed and how they're still, Nick Saban's still the coach over there, right? Okay, so they're still probably going to win 12 to 14 games. But you look at the rest of the SEC West, and Arkansas, which they started off rocky, they're 8-5. Okay, they win a couple of those games that get out of hand on them. Those games don't get out of hand. Arkansas is good. Like, really, they're fine. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose, and we're just talking about the SEC West here because, like, this is just a scary place, right? You would expect Mississippi State to fall back some after losing Dak Prescott, which we just talked about. That's not going to be easy to replace. I don't know what the heck Auburn's going to do. They finished at the bottom of the West last season, but they're still talented. They just don't know what the quarterback situation looks like. I'm interested mostly in what happens to Ole Miss because they beat a lot of good teams last year. Okay, they're 6-2 in the conference, and they were able to knock off Alabama, and they were able to knock off LSU. But then they had that one weird game against Florida. They only scored 10 points, and you're just like, okay. You just don't understand stuff like that. And then they play that game against Memphis. Memphis takes them out. So they just lose some of these games that they're head scratchers. Not that Memphis was anything to sniff at, because Memphis started the season 7-0, but certainly, you would think Mississippi, just a much bigger, more talented school than Memphis, didn't seem to make a difference that day. Not particularly. So I'm looking at at this article on Florida quarterbacks, and it was fascinating to me because there was a writer at SB Nation. They wrote this article on Florida quarterbacks and how a great many number of Florida quarterbacks started off as Florida quarterbacks and didn't finish as Florida quarterbacks. They either finished at Florida and played a different position, or they were made quarterbacks and transferred to somewhere else. Okay? Florida has, since Tim Tebow, 11 scholarship quarterback recruits. And 11 of these guys have finished at something other than quarterback, which is insane. It is fairly ridiculous. Okay, if you recall, obviously Cam Newton is a guy. He's one of those guys that wound up at Auburn, ended up winning a national title there, but he started off as the backup to Tim Tebow. Okay, that's just a common fact. But it's not just him. And at first I was like, there's no way there's like 11 of those guys. And maybe I just haven't been following Florida football closely enough. Because it's like, there's no way there's 11. But Cam Newton ended up at Auburn. And then John Brantley, who was, quarterback from 2007 to 2011, actually remained a Florida quarterback. Trey Burton from 2010 to 2013 got moved to wide receiver. Jordan Reed, who's now the tight end of the Washington Redskins, he got moved to tight end. He was actually originally a quarterback recruit. That to me is crazy. Then everybody remembers Jeff Driscoll transferring away to Louisiana Tech. Jacoby Brissett transferred to NC State. Tyler Murphy transferred to Boston College. Skylar Morningwig transferred to Columbia. Max Staver ended up at Houston Baptist. Treon Harris seems to be moving to wide receiver. And obviously Will Greer transferred to West Virginia. And I don't know if anybody can boast that. Can any other school boast that they've had 11 quarterback recruits and not one of those recruits remained either at Florida or a quarterback? That is a lot of wasted time recruiting, it seems like. No? Don't you think so? So now we're here, and we still don't know where we're going to be with Treon Harris. The Gators are not going to be with a great quarterback this season for sure, which kind of stinks because it would have been nice to see what would have happened with Will Greer. Thank you for listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you in 24 hours.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Shake, shake, shake it at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. The most delicious and unique milkshakes. How about this for delicious and different? Add freshly cooked bacon to any milkshake.
Is that even legal?
You bet your milkshake and booty it is. Chocolate caramel bacon shake. Coffee caramel shake. All hand blended. Shake, shake, shake it. Down at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Just about any flavor shake that you can imagine. And they are delicious. Get your shake, shake, shake on at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Five Guys Burgers and Fries, located in Hickson at North Point. Gun Barrel at the Walmart Center. Downtown 4th and Broad. And in Cleveland at Keith and Stewart.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important.
Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
Unlimited streaming, T-Mobile. No overages. T-Mobile. Get the latest Samsung smartphones. T-Mobile. No credit check required. T-Mobile. Let's set the record straight on coverage. T-Mobile has the best coverage in the Chattanooga area. For a limited time, get 50% off a Samsung tablet when you buy a select Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Only at T-Mobile. T-Mobile, doing data differently. T-Mobile. Unlimited streaming. No overages. T-Mobile. Route 153 Hickson. Next to Starbucks. Open till 8. Call 876-9022. That's 876-9022 for T-Mobile.
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at SabrinaRealty.com.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house. Money, lots of money. I want to buy in the sky.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business? Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years, a 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Call me now, 875-5621.
You dang Yankee! Great horny toads! I'm up north! Gotta burn my boots!
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
Criminal charges in the Flint, Michigan water crisis.
So many things went so terribly wrong and tragically wrong in Flint.
A new face for American money.
For the first time in more than a century, the front of our currency will feature the portrait of a woman, Harriet Tubman, on the $20 note.
CBS World News Roundup, late edition. I'm Bill Whitney. Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuett has announced charges against a municipal employee in Flint and two state regulators who allegedly covered up the high lead levels in the city's water supply and did nothing about it.
They had a duty to protect the health of families and citizens of Flint. They failed. They failed to discharge their duties.
People were poisoned, and it was a totally avoidable man-made disaster.
Kurt Guyette of the ACLU was the first to expose the problem. Lonnie Scott of the group Progress Michigan says today's charges are just a step in the right direction.
Until they're announcing charges against some of the highest folks in the Snyder administration, I don't know that the people of Flint will feel like this is justice enough.
Governor Rick Snyder didn't acknowledge the problem till last fall.
One of the things we clearly want to pursue is the truth. The citizens of Michigan deserve it. The citizens of Flint deserve it.
Todd Flood is the special counsel leading the investigation.
We will turn over every stone. We'll go down every rabbit hole. This is just the first wave.
Alexander Hamilton will stay on the $10 bill, but it was announced today that a famous anti-slavery crusader will grace the 20. Correspondent Steve Dorsey reports.
Harriet Tubman will replace Andrew Jackson on the front of the $20 bill. It'll mark the first time a woman has been featured on American paper money in more than a century. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew.
Her incredible story of courage and commitment to equality embodies the ideals of democracy that our nation celebrates, and will continue to value her legacy.
The bill, along with redesigns for the $5 and $10 notes, will be unveiled in 2020, the centennial of the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. Steve Dorsey, CBS News, Washington.
Volkswagen reportedly has reached an agreement to compensate American owners of diesel-powered cars with software that cheats on emissions tests. More from Jeff Gilbert of Detroit station WWJ.
The deal is expected to be announced at a hearing tomorrow morning in San Francisco in a lawsuit filed by VW owners. Until then, neither the company nor the EPA is commenting on the supposed deal, which was reported today in a German newspaper. That paper also reports that owners will get their vehicles fixed for free, but details of that fix are not expected at tomorrow's hearing.
The stock market continued its rise. The Dow up 42 points to close at 18,096. The NASDAQ 7 points higher at 49.48. Now this.
Are you hiring but not sure where to find the best candidates? As a business owner, I can tell you that your company is only as good as the people you hire. I can also tell you that posting your job in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. But when you're short-staffed, there's no time to deal with the dozens of different job sites. Until now, thanks to ZipRecruiter.com, I can post to 100-plus job sites with one single click and be instantly matched to candidates from over 6 million resumes. Just post once, and within 24 hours, watch your candidates roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses, and you can try it right now for free. Getting the right people for your company is so important. Try ZipRecruiter and get your perfect candidate before they go to somebody else. Today, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/talk. That's ZipRecruiter.com/talk. Again, ZipRecruiter.com/talk.
Hillary, you're fired.
Donald Trump at a rally in Indianapolis today, fresh from his big win in New York's Republican primary. He expects to face Hillary Clinton in the fall.
I love running against crooked Hillary. I love that. I mean, so much better. Bernie wouldn't be as much fun.
Ted Cruz, campaigning in Pennsylvania, said Trump's victory is not much of an achievement.
Upon winning his home state, Donald, with a characteristic display of humility, declared this race is over. Manhattan has spoken.
But CBS News political director John Dickerson says Trump got a valuable momentum boost last night.
Not only does he continue the march to the majority of delegates he needs, but even if he doesn't get the delegates, what he wins is talking points in his larger argument, which is that the person with the delegates and the votes who gets to Cleveland should be the one who gets the nomination.
You're listening to the CBS World News Roundup.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 5 Guys Burgers and Fries 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest. All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at 5 Guys Burgers and Fries 153 in